Okay, in this video I'm going to show you how to make a fidget spinner. So, fidget spinners are popular toys that usually have a bearing in the center and some weights or bearings on the outside that you can spin. So here's some examples of some fidget spinners. So, first thing to note with our fidget spinner is that you don't want it too big. So this diameter, if it's too large, which is diameters from one end, so from like this end all the way down to this end, if this is larger than like 2.75 inches, then when you go to spin it, that means diameter, 2.75 inch diameter. If it's bigger than that, when you go to spin it, it's going to hit your hand, the webbing between your thumb and your pointer finger. So you want to keep it around that size. Inside, we're going to need another circle. And this circle needs to be the diameter of the bearing, maybe a hair larger, so the bearing can slide in this hole. So that's going to be, bearing is about almost an inch. It's 7/8 of an inch diameter. So those are some of the measurements that we need to keep in mind while doing this. So you need to open up your Fusion 360 and create a new sketch. Well, before we do that, go down to Document Settings, click on the arrow on the left. Make sure this says inches. If this says millimeters or mm, click on this Change Active Units tool. On the right, you're going to be able to edit these. Change it to inch, set it as your default, and say OK. Otherwise, you're designing this in the metric units and it's not going to print right, the right size. Okay, so after your units are set, go to Create New Sketch. Select Top on the View Cube on the right, and then select this plane. And it's going to create a sketch for you. It's going to pull up all of your sketching tools. We want to use the center diameter circle. And I like to snap it to the center here, and I follow up on the axis. I'm going to do a reference line here. So this is going to be like the overall diameter of the fidget spinner, which remember shouldn't be larger than 2.75. You can make it smaller. If you have smaller hands, you probably want to be closer to 2.25. But if you want to fit like pennies on the outside of this, you need to be closer to 2.7 or 2.75. So I'm going to do that because I want to put pennies on mine. It gives me a dimension here. I can delete that if I don't want it there. So now I have a circle diameter 2.75 inches. So that's almost 3 inches, 2 3/4 of an inch. Now I need to do the circle for our bearing. So I just clicked on the circle tool again, clicked in the center, drag up. Remember the bearing is 7/8 of an inch. So a bearing, we're going to use skateboard bearings. Here's what they look like. They look like this. Okay, and you can just hold the center and then it spins. So that's what this hole is for. So this is just like, so we don't go outside of the size, and then this one's the size of our bearing. And then I'm going to add pennies. So I'm going to create another circle right here. A penny is 0.75, but I'm going to go a hair larger. I'm going to do 0.76 just to make sure, because sometimes when they print a little small. 0.76. And then I'm going to make sure there's some space between it and this other hole, because this is going to be plastic in here and we don't want it too thin. And then I'm going to right click on that and copy it and then click on this and right click and paste, and then drag this down. It's not working for some reason, so I'm just going to draw another one. 0.76. And you can do this, or you don't have to. You don't have to do these holes. But I'm going to put some in mine because a little extra weight on the outside of your fidget spinner helps it have more momentum. You want to keep spinning. So I'm going to do that. And for this one, you can do a spline tool and kind of freehand. Everywhere you click, it creates a pivot point. And you can freehand half this and make some kind of design here. So I could do that, and then I could draw a line right here in the center and go up. So I just did a line from the center of this up, and you can go to create, mirror, and select the line that you drew, and then select mirror line on the right, and select this line here, and it mirrors it over. Say OK, and I could make that my fidget spinner. Okay, if I want to do mine a little different, I'm going to do Control Z and go backwards. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get the circle tool again, and I'm going to snap a circle from the center of this to the top there. I'm going to come down here and do the same thing, center to this top, and then I'm going to click in the center of this, and I'm going to make this one, I don't know, maybe there, a little larger. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my scissor tool, and this is to trim off what I don't want to keep. So I don't want this exterior, it's just a reference. I don't want this right here. I'm trying to imagine this all printed as one piece. Okay, and now I can finish that sketch and make sure all your lines are connected together, and you can come back after the fact and drag these a little bit, make them a little bigger, a little smaller if you want. But I'm going to go to Extrude, select what I want to be the fidget spinner. The bearing is 1/4 of an inch thick, so 0.25 at least. You can do a little more if you want, but it needs to be at least that thick. And say you didn't like something, you can always go back in your timeline and adjust things. Like I'm looking at this, I'm thinking these need to be a little bit bigger. Plastic might be getting a little thin, and it adjusts. Okay, then I want to fillet the edges so they're not sharp. So I'm going to go to the Fillet Tool and select all of these edges that might potentially hit my hand. And then I'm over here on the right where it says fillet, I'm going to change the radius. And you can just play around with numbers here and see what looks good. But it's going to probably be like 0.0 something. There's 0.08, 0.09. If you do too much, you'll see it'll mess up. See how it turned red? Saying no, you can't do that. So I can't go more than 0.09, maybe 0.07. It's looking pretty good. You know, if I drop this so it's probably going to break right here, it's pretty thin, but I could beef that up, or I could make sure that this gets printed solid. So that's one way to do the fidget spinner. Quick and easy. But I mean, really, you can do whatever you want. So if I go back a ways, you know, I could say to here, say I didn't want pennies in it. I could go to create, may do a polygon, you know, snap this polygon out and make it a polygon shape. So So it's like a gear fidget spinner. And with these polygons, you know, you can do more or less angles on them. So I could say, see how it says 6? I could do tab and change that to like 3. Now it's a triangle. I could change that to 4. Now it's a square. I wonder what happened if we did 2. It doesn't let you. So you gotta do 3 or more. But I could get that roughly the size of the circle. And then I could finish that sketch. I could extrude this triangle 0.25. So there's a lot of ways to do this. You know, whatever your imagination lets you do, you can do. You can use a combination of the line tool and the spline tool. So there's a line tool. I could use the line, then hit escape, click on a spline, do a little curve here, and then hit enter, go back to a line. Just make sure you're snapping them together, and make sure you snap them to this circle. So you could do that. Combination of different tools in here to get what you want. So yeah, just play around with it, have fun with it, make something unique, something fun. One thing I forgot to show you is, say you did this circle one and you want to put some, you know, just have holes or a circle. You can go to create and circular pattern and select that circle, and then select the center point, and you can type how many you want in there. I could do 5, 6. You go too crazy with this, it's gonna freeze the computer. But you can play with that, and it spaces them evenly for you, so that's nice. So I could do 3, and then I could you know, go and draw around all these, and then just extrude that. So all right, when you're finished, let me just show you real quick. If, let's say I extruded this, and I'm gonna submit that. I mean, don't submit one like this, but say I'm gonna submit one like this. This would be a bad one because these round, you can't get your finger on this to spin it. It's too slick. You need it kind of like cut out. And you could do that. You could draw on the surface and cut that out after the fact. But to submit this, you go File, 3D Print, drag a box over it and select it all. It should all turn blue. On the right, probably this will be checked. The Send to 3D Print utility, uncheck that. Leave everything else how it is. Say OK. Save that under your number and save it as your name, like Fidge or Fidget Spinner or something, and then submit that in Canvas.